If you've always wanted to learn Chromaverb, then keep watching. This is the video for you. We're going to break down all the parameters, all the controls, and by the end of the video, you should be able to know Chromaverb inside and out. So let's get started. To start, choose Chromaverb in the audio selector. So go to Reverb, Chromaverb, Stereo, and we have Chromaverb. Another way that you could do this is essentially just by hitting Control-Command-P on your keyboard and typing in Chromaverb. So now that we are in Chromaverb itself, we have two different views. We have the main and the details view. So the main is where you're going to find all your common parameters, your pre-delay, your attack, decay, dry, wet. The details is kind of where things get a little bit more interesting. You have your reverb quality type, LFO speed, depth, early late reflections, all of that is here. And you have an output EQ, which is different from the damping EQ that you see in the main window. Now we also have the room type selector. In the room type selector, you're basically going through the different types of rooms that you're trying to recreate. Since Logic's Chromaverb is mainly an algorithmic room reverb, then it's mainly recreating spaces that suit different rooms, different lengths, and just different sizes overall. One of these that I really enjoy is the Bloomy preset. I use that a lot. This is definitely one of my favorite reverbs. I tend to go with the Bloomy or the Airy. Those are really nice. Moving on to the dampening EQ. This dampens the reflections of the decayed signal. It is divided into 4 different bands. You have your high and low shelves, your low parametric EQ, and your high parametric EQ. The frequency field sets the center field of the dampening EQ. The ratio field sets the reflection delay timing. The Q sets the bandwidth surrounding the center frequency of the damping EQ band along with the resonance and slopes of the shelves. This is the source material that we have. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn on Chromaverb, and I'm just going to change some of the parameters while it's playing, and so you can hear kind of the nuances to the reflections on the decay. On the bottom, we have some additional parameters. On the left, we have pre-delay. This sets the attack phase of the reverb. This affects either the volume or the density buildup type, depending on the chosen room type for the attack. For some room types, the attack parameter increases volume over time, and other room types, the attack parameter sets the amount of time it takes for the reverb to reach the maximum density value. This is also determined by the density knob. For the decay for certain frequencies is dependent on damping parameter values, so going back to the damping EQ. The density adjusts the density of the early and late reflections at the same time, depending on room type selected. Pre-delay is a great way to get perceived depth and distance from a reverb without losing critical information from the direct sound. A low attack builds up reflections early on, while having a high attack will have reflections building up at a slower pace. A really great feature about Chromaverb is you can sync the pre-delay to note values that are perfectly in time with your sessions, eliminating having to guess what the perfect millisecond value is. Decay time is the duration for the reverb to fade away. A longer decay time can make a performance feel more expansive, while a shorter decay time results in a more controlled and intimate sound environment. The decay can also be synced to note values as well. The distance sets the perceived distance from the source. Density controls the echoes found inside a reverb's decay. Higher density settings produce a thicker and more sustained reverb, producing a lavish backdrop. Lower density tends to add spades of granularity and space between reflections. Turn the freeze button on to infinitely circulate the signal inside the room type selected. You can also trigger this with automation to create some crazy atmospheres. The size knob determines the dimensions of the room. Higher values correspond to a larger space. And finally, the dry and wet sliders. These control the balance between the unaffected dry signal and the processed wet reverb signal. These can be balanced for if you want more or less reverb. Now going to the detail view. The detail view shows us the 6-band equalizer for the output. The output EQ adjusts frequencies of the overall combined reverb and source signal. Band 1 is a high-pass filter that allows high frequencies to pass. Band 2 is a low shelving filter that adjusts the level of low frequencies. Band 3 is a low parametric filter for low frequencies. Band 4 is a high parametric filter for high frequencies. Band 5 is a high shelving filter that adjusts the level of high frequencies. And lastly, band 6 is a low-pass filter that allows low frequencies to pass and reduces the level of high frequencies near the cutoff. Moving on to the bottom, we can see the more advanced parameters. On the left, we can choose a quality level. Low produces a grainy reverb with noisy modulation. High sounds clean and precise. Ultra delivers a smooth, expansive sounding reverb. The mod speed sets the speed of the LFO, and the mod slider sets the depth of the LFO modulation. In Chromaverb, this is ultimately based on the room type selected. The mod source button lets us choose a sine, noise, or random waveform for the LFO. The smoothing control lets us change in essence the shape of the LFO waveform. The random waveform is on the smoother side, and the sine and noise waveforms tend to be more saturated. The early/late reflection slider sets the level of early and late reflections, which is based on the distance parameter we mentioned earlier on in the video. The width slider sets the stereo width of the reverb. Another feature I really love about this reverb is the mono maker. This allows you to remove stereo information below the set frequency. Currently I have this set at 1400 Hz. The slider helps combat perceived level losses in the overall low frequency range. Alright, that's it for today's video. I know that was a lot of information, so I really want to thank you all for sticking with me all the way up until the end. I really hope you learned something from today's video and that you found today's video helpful. If you did, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like the video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's all linked in the description box below. If you got any future video ideas, make sure to drop a comment. I read every single comment under every single one of my videos. And that's pretty much it for today, so I'll catch you guys all on the next one.